what coaching does do, why I like coaching, why I call Alan when I'm driving home at night, is Alan will say one thing, and that one thing will spark an idea or a thought in me that I may not have had otherwise. And that's where I go back to the very pragmatic sounding board. You've provided support to me, you've provided support to my team, you've provided support to my son. But it's all about, you ask a lot of questions, and it only takes one to spark the idea. And then that idea connects with other things you've got going on around you, and that drives forward.
Brilliant.
And I think that's how because coaching, you can sell all sorts of things. Well, I can do this, I can do that, I can do everything else. But at the end of the day, you only need one tag. It's like going on a course or going on a seminar. If you hear one thing that's of value, it's probably paid for itself. But what you do is you help, I was going to say you help keep us focused, but actually this is the contradiction, okay? The contradiction is you absolutely do focus and drive, but the other thing you do is you go and you create a world, here we go, a world of possibilities that's far broader. So actually, that's in complete conflict to what I just said about focus. But in reality, what you're doing is you are trying to blow the brain outwards, so that actually your view is much broader rather than much narrower. So in terms of results and driving for results, you hone it down, but in terms of ideas and thinking and innovation, you blast it out.
Well, it's been fun. I would call it a roller coaster ride. I often chuckle to myself when I think about some of my interactions with Alan, because when I think about what the Results Centre brings, it brings what I'd call a healthy balance of support and challenge. And the way that manifests itself is, really coaching is about getting the best out of people. What the Results Centre have done for me is they've helped me to be the best leader that I can be, and they've helped me to stretch beyond my own expectations of what I felt I could achieve. The way that that's done is an interesting formula, because it's very much a combination of looking at the individual and working out how to respond to the individual's characteristics, but doing it by really stretching people outside of their comfort zone. And that's a combination of certain traits and personality styles that the coaches adopt, but it's also around a basic formula that they use, which is, when you step back from it, obvious and makes sense, but it's about how that formula is applied that really gets the best out of people. Well, from a results point of view, I define it in two ways. I think I can break it down very much into kind of business results and then personal results, let's say. From a personal point of view, really what I've got out of the engagement with the Results Centre is that I actually achieved things that I didn't even know I could achieve myself. So, for example, if I go back a couple of years ago, at short notice I was asked to step in and cover a vacancy in the organisation from a sales point of view. It was the first time I'd stepped in and led a sales team. It was an international role, covering many countries, effectively the entire organisational sales team in the Europe area. And to step into a role of that gravitas and that seniority, having never actually directly managed sales teams before, was quite a stretch. What I managed to get out of the Results Centre was really two things, was clarity and confidence to go and do what I felt was important, to go and achieve results beyond what the teams felt that they could expect, but also the support to know that actually I could achieve that myself. So it was very much around, how do you get the best out of yourself and in turn get the best out of your teams? So that would be a business point of view. I think from a personal point of view, what the Results Centre has brought to me is an ability to work with someone who really understands me as an individual and gets the best out of me and helps me be the best me that I can be. And what's fascinating about that is you can't draw a line then between the you at work and the you at home. What you actually get out of it is things that affect you as a broad person, as an entire personality. And that helps you a lot, both in your business life but also in your personal life as well. Okay, so the three phrases that I would use to describe my kind of working interactions with the Results Centre would be challenging, supportive, and responsive. Okay, so challenging. I often, as I mentioned a moment ago, I often smile and laugh to myself when I think about some of my interactions with my coach, because I often liken it in my mind to preparing for a world title boxing bout. Okay, and what I mean by that is that it's a little bit like sparring. What I get out of those interactions is, depending on the mood that I'm in and how I'm feeling about things on any given day, I get a different kind of response or a different kind of reaction from the coach I work with. And it's a classic technique which, when you step back from it, you can observe what it's about, but actually when you're in the midst of it, it really, really works. And what it does is it says, okay, on any given day, if I'm feeling great about what I've just delivered, what I get back from my coach is celebration of the success I've just achieved, but then a clear challenge about, are you sure you're still doing enough? And what it does is it takes you outside of your box and makes you keep pushing for the next step of the challenge. If I'm going into that session of discussion feeling a little bit down about what I've just achieved or what I've been doing, I get completely the opposite. I get support, and it helps me to build myself back up and think about where I go next. And that's really where the responsiveness comes in, because although it's a formula, which it is, it's a technique, the responsiveness is about how to then relate it to that individual. And what I get probably most out of my relationship with the coach is the coach really understands me. So the results centre deliver business results through people, but they do it in the end by really working with the individual to get the best out of them. One experience that I've had with the Results Centre is the first 101 Days programme. That's a programme that's geared towards people that are starting a new job in an organisation. And my experience of that was when I was asked to take on additional responsibilities for a sales organisation in a business which I'd already been working in as marketing VP. Where Alan helped me with that particular experience was we sat down and we talked about what were the challenges that we were trying to overcome in the business, what were we trying to change in the business, and we really built out a programme of how I was going to go and make that happen through my leadership approach and my leadership style. We talked a lot about what it really means to be a leader in the space where you start to step into areas that you're not necessarily strongly experienced and familiar. And what we really talked about was how you take a position of being rather than a position of doing as you approach that new challenge and that new role. And it comes from a place where, in spite of the fact that as a leader leading a group of people in an area for the first time, you may not know everything that they do, but your role is not necessarily to know everything that they do. Your role is to say, how can I get them to be better at doing it? And it comes from a place about how do you create the stretch in the organisation that gets them to results that even they themselves don't imagine that they can achieve. What we were doing in the business at that time was we came from a background where the business had been frankly quite risk averse to one where, with private equity investment in the years just before that, we were trying to change the culture of the business. We were trying to bring in a culture of stretch. We were trying to bring in a culture of striving for results beyond expectations. And it was really about the interaction with the team and how I actually created an environment where we could engage and create that kind of stretch. What Alan helped me to do as part of that process was to build a plan for me personally that I could link into the way the teams were working and to go and make that a reality in the organisation. And as a result of that, we had, in the first 12 months, considerable turnaround in our results, including double-digit percentage growth in profitability in the 12 months that followed as part of that 101-day programme. Okay, so one of the unique things about the Results Centre's 101-day programme is that they really try and target it towards the business results that come out of it. So it's not purely about a kind of an interaction, it's very much about how does it drive to the end results. A good example of that was that at the start of the programme, we sat down with a three-way conversation, effectively between myself, the Results Centre co-chair, should I say, or coach, and my line manager. And the purpose of that discussion was for us to get aligned around what is it we wanted to achieve and what did success look like at the end of 101 days. As a result of that, we agreed a set of measurable targets around sort of outcomes that we wanted to achieve, and they were both quantitative and qualitative. So it was around how do we get the right engagement with the organisation, how do we get people recognising the change that we're trying to create, what evidence can we build that shows that they are starting to make a change in the way they do their work. But then on the other hand, it was specific measures around performance in terms of sales revenues, around price increase achievement levels, around profitability. We built those measures into the contract or the agreement around the coaching program that was provided. And at the end of the 101 days, we were able to take a look back at it and really measure ourselves against what was achieved. The great thing about the program was that as part of the engagement, we were able to actually review that and actually say that, yeah, we'd achieved the vast majority of the results and in many cases surpassed expectation on a number of those things. Yeah, the great thing out of that process as well was that my line manager, who was obviously interested in the outcomes of all this, was frankly delighted with the results that we created. We were in a year where we were looking to turn the business around. We achieved that. So if I look at the full year results that followed from that 101-day programme, we started to turn the business around and put it back on a track of of incredibly strong, profitable gains. And that 101 days was a key part of doing that. So, I think from that point of view, it was a good investment for the organisation, and definitely it was a good investment for my boss, who was, frankly, relying on the results coming through for him, because as the general manager of that business unit, the sales piece was a key driver of success that he needed to get the results from. Okay, would I recommend the Results Centre? Based on my experience, yes. I would say that the benefits that can be achieved from that are very, very tangible. The question is really, for any individual that's looking to do that, what are you looking to get out of it? I would suggest that if you are going to do it, then the two things that are most important are a commitment from the individual that's going to be receiving the coaching that this is going to be worth their while, and that they're going to be open to the idea of the changes that are required by it. But also, and I think this is most important, that the line manager sees the benefit of it. Because the benefit that comes from this process has to be bought into by the line manager. Otherwise, the reality is that the commitment of the individual following it will always be diminished. So in my experience, if you can get full stakeholder engagement between the person receiving the coaching and the line management coaching, line manager of the person receiving the coaching, then absolutely I would go with the Results Centre as a mechanism to get your coaching into the organisation. Okay? So how would I sum up my experiences of working with the Results Centre? I would say they've been challenging, confrontational, supportive, but always geared towards making you better at what you're trying to be, and always geared towards how you achieve success in your organisation. And that's a winning formula. I would say we've put in place now in our organisation a culture which is driven by a stretch mindset. And I think what we've achieved over the last 2 to 3 years are results that are way beyond the market level of performance. We've outperformed what would have naturally been possible if we'd have just sat and went with the market. So basically we've been in a position where we've been able to look at ourselves and say, do we feel good about what we've achieved? Yeah, in the circumstances of the current economic climate, we've achieved more than we would have normally expected to. So one of the things that I've taken away from the experience of working with Alan in the Results Centre is the technique I apply in the way I lead my people. And I would say that the technique is very much around one which is about engaging people, getting connected to them in a way that really gets into the details of what they're trying to achieve, but without getting sucked into the sort of minutiae of it. Okay? And what I mean by that is, it's about setting challenge. It's about asking the right questions that challenge them to stretch themselves. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our coaching techniques is, how do you go and get people to think beyond what they're currently thinking? How do you get them to see the bigger opportunity? And then really feed off that with excellent what and how questions that put them into a place where they actually have to come back and justify what they're doing to get there, or if they're not stretching to get there, what's stopping them from doing that. That drives you towards a conversation, which means that you start to deal with their own challenges and how you help them get beyond them. So frankly, I think the thing that I take out of it is not just the coaching that I receive, but in many ways the coaching that I then pass down the line into my organisation.
The main thing I've taken away from the coaching sessions with Alan is to be much less fearless about my own abilities and capabilities, to have much more faith in myself, and another key aspect is the importance of relationships, of building relationships, and parting with your own experience and passing it on to other people that you work with. My experience of the coaching session was that because of Alan's experience, we were able to build a relationship very quickly. He instilled a focus in me to achieve a result. He helped me to think deeper about myself and my abilities, and he helped me to think about the expectations that my employer will have after the coaching session had completed. To my mind, Alan was extremely successful in all these things. Having a great executive coach, such as Alan is, first of all, it gives you confidence about yourself. It reassures you that you're on the right track. He gives you focus on the end result, and by doing so, he helps you overcome your challenges that you're facing in your job.
Well, we have actually quite a simple formula for success for our coaching. And really, it's centered around creating possibilities or realizing the possibilities that individuals have, adding in the challenge that we bring as professional executive coaches, and producing amazing business results.